writing, and I haven't been waiting for a response. I've actually been waiting for validation, you know? I've been waiting for somebody to say, you know, you've got great writing capability, what you've got to offer is brilliant, you matter, your story matters, your journey matters, these other women's stories who were within this book, their stories matter.
Drive. So what I started to do, I started to just like buy and sell domain names when the internet was like literally you had to plug it into your wall. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It's so easy because you're chasing this dream and this vision that you have, and to feel as though you need to be working all hours of the day. And yes, there are some days where you need to push yourself that little bit harder, but you really need, if you haven't got your health and your well-being, you haven't got any business. So
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of She's the Boss Female Entrepreneur Stories, where I interview phenomenal women from the world of business. As usual, if you haven't already done so, please make sure you click that subscribe or follow button so that you never miss a new interview release. If you're not following on social media, please follow on Instagram and Twitter at She's the Boss INTL. I'm on Facebook, Daniela Genus, She's the Boss International, and on LinkedIn, Daniela Genus. Today, I am joined by the founder of Smart World and Smart Kids, Marcia Brock. Marcia, thank you for joining me today.
Good morning.
You have two different businesses.
Yeah.
Tell us about both of them and how you came to launch them.
I have more, but I say two main businesses.
Mm-hmm.
One is a project management company, which is Smart World, and it's a project management company that specializes in joint ventures.
Mm-hmm.
I have a background in IT, so I use that, and my partner has a background in media and project management too. And what was happening was I had a company before that called Trinity Collective, which was focused on project management as well. And when I started Trinity, I had projects that were named smart or deemed as smart.
Mm-hmm.
And my goal was to make the world smarter, and that was like 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now that brand is all over the world. Like everything's smart, everything has a little bit of smart in it. So it really worked. So when we formed Smart World just under 10 years ago, it was following on a project management company I'd founded myself, but then kind of got partners in, and we formed Smart World. Our mission is to just make the world smarter. It is a case of not always just technology based, which a lot of companies, because my background was tech with Cisco's and Microsoft, I realized we were the first with certain things when it came to doing things in my female head of smart ways. And now it's snowballed into sometimes not always a good thing, because a lot of the smart stuff ain't always deemed as great anymore. So for the last few years, we're just trying to bring it back simply to being smarter for yourself and your household and your family, as well as business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So, I was going to say, Smart Kid, how did that come?
Yeah, so Smart Kid was a natural progression with myself and my oldest daughter at the time. When my daughter was 5, what was happening was we were going to numerous different things at the weekends, because we liked museum, we liked adventures, I like to discover new things, and I kind of act like a tourist in London or in England, just so it wasn't always samey. And it's important to rest and stuff, but it's also important to either find alternative ways to learn. And what happened was my daughter would talk about what we did at school, or I'll take my neighbour's children, or I'll take her school friends. And Smart Kid developed because a lot more of the children were telling their parents what they did. The parents were really engaged, and I became the go-to mother in the school playground. Where can we take our kids? What can we do with them? And then what was happening was I would be able to refer a number of children to these places, and it would be a case of initially the places were grateful, be thanking me, giving me recommendations and whatsoever. Then with Smart World, I could then offer my project management services to these companies as well if they needed improvement or they had a particular project. And it naturally progressed, because then some of these mothers were like, I would love to deliver a class to these children. And depending on their experience and qualifications, we'll set up workshops and classes. So in the end, it became the fun and creative workshops for children aged 2 to 18, because we just was able to engage children from, like, early on. It was like making handbags. I happened to do project management with one of the mothers in the playground who also made high-end handbags. The children got to make handbags, take them back to their parents, and they're like, oh my goodness, like snatching the bags from their own child type thing. Then we had like learning to roller skate, but not just roller skate. My cousin had a class where he teaches them how to do like a dance formation on roller skates. What happened was that grew into a business that now is international business and things like that. So those are the fun things. I love doing the fun things with kids. And kind of Smart World merged into it. So sometimes I would have like large corporations who want to give back. They now call it what's the word they call it?
CSR, corporate social responsibility.
Corporate social responsibility. And it wasn't 15 years ago. It wasn't so hot on the topic. And I found that now my theme to working with organizations is, what is your corporate responsibility? If you don't have one, that's fine, because I got smart kids. So it was a way to it kind of balanced out each other. So I still got to be with my children. My youngest daughter's 10. She has been the face of Smart Kids since she was very little, and she helps with reviews of companies and organizations when we're doing stuff.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that it's a business that your children can get involved in as well, and also that your other business, like, so it's like a circle, I suppose.
I just
complements the other.
I say we make our world smarter. So that's our world. We live in the smart world.
No, I love that. So you said you had a background in IT. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that, like, what was your inspiration for going down the IT route? And I ask this specifically because you don't necessarily meet a lot of women or women of color that had an IT or a tech background. And I think that more people need to know that you exist.
Background in IT started when I was 18, 19. And what happened was I was naturally good at problem solving in ways that was with electrical items. My first, like, I was about 15, 16. I can remember like being with DJs, and they took out what's classed as like the motherboard of their DJ decks, and they couldn't see what part of the soldering was causing a problem. What was the actual problem? And I have a very like computer generated mind. I can now be able to interpret it. And I was like, oh, there it is. There's the bit that's unsoldered and broken. It's right there. And they're like, how did you see that? It's like a maze of millions of bits. So that was my first little light bulb moment to realize, oh, I noticed that all of you, there's like 4 men in the room. You couldn't see that? So I know I'm very anal with bits, like that has to be in that space, that has to be in that space. It has to look very uniform so I could pinpoint and see. So my father's an electrical engineer, and some of the stuff he was doing, I would understand the circuits and how to wire and things like that. And then my mother remarried, and her and my stepdad, my mum's an accountant, my stepdad runs a double glazing company. That kind of all fitted in with my ideas of making sure I have my own business. So in IT, I think it's because I was always kind of told, go and do the things you're really good at. And in school, I don't recall ever being known to being good at IT, but I was very good at DT, design and technology, and making things and finding ways to make things. And I was temping because I left home at 16. My mother moved to Jamaica, and I was temping to kind of make money, basically, just to focus and make the money. But I was going to different organizations while I was temping. I was doing, I think it was more admin and database. And I was going around to these companies and seeing people hate their jobs. And they were in it and they would moan every day. And like being like a young teenager thinking, oh, that's not how I want my life to turn up Monday to Friday and only think Saturday and Sunday's a good day. So I can remember doing a temping role. It was actually in Camberwell. I walked in a temping agency, filled out one of their computer online things, and the computers were glitching. And I was like, oh, you just need to go into the admin bit and click this, this, and this. And the IT consultant who came down to fix it didn't actually know how to do it and was impressed that I did. And was like, oh, that's really good. You did that really fast. Do you do IT? And I was like, well, not professionally, but I know a few things. I left there and I'm very big on signs. And then I left there within like maybe 2 minutes. I saw a sign saying IT courses down the road from my house in Peckham. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I think it was the next day, I had another sign with another call in to say that I was really good at IT. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm always going to call you because you know how to fix everything. So that then persuaded me to do that course. It was a Microsoft, it was initially, I think it was Microsoft engineering that led onto all the softwares of Microsoft. And what happened was I did it really fast because I found it really easy. So where I kind of do classes with children and tell them, I was like, do the things to make money that you're really easy at because it feels like nothing. Yeah. So I did the course. I think it was like a 6-month course. I did it in about 6 weeks. And at the time when I done the first part of the course, because I think it was like 4 levels, I done the first level and then also found out that I had pre-cervical cancer. And
how old was you then? Sorry,
I was 19, and my mother was going back to Jamaica, and my mother's like the person who would rally round you and be a full-on hands-on nurse. And I didn't want to stop her, so I refused to tell her. One of my family members who did tell, it was very overwhelming for her. So I was very mindful because in my head I knew I was going to get better. So in my head I was very mindful of not impacting people because any kind of bad news about a family member, people can take it badly. So I just focused on doing my course. I was able to stay there a bit later because I left home already. I could be there anytime. And just banged out basically most of the Microsoft level classes so fast and so well that computer college asked me to then start teaching the rest of the students.
Wow.
Yeah. And because also the courses weren't, and that happened again when I done my next class, when I done Cisco, exactly the same thing happened. I done the course really fast. And the company asked me to work with them and teach the actual class I was in previously.
What a confidence booster.
To be honest, it was normalized. I can look back and now say that, but it was something that was normal for me. So even in my school with even CDT, I was excellent at it. So I used to support the teacher to help teach other children. So it was always something just naturally, but you can look back and now it's like, oh, okay, that's easy, cool. I'm going to go and do that and I can make money from it too. So that's what happened with Microsoft. But like, I think it was like a couple months later that they realized that I was the first black female, and it was a black run organization. So they were really proud that I was the youngest black female Microsoft engineer in the UK. So they used that to help boost their marketing and then everything. But I didn't use it until like 10 years later. When when I went on to do Cisco's, like, I had already worked with Cisco's. I had already worked in the industry because I'd done the Microsoft and went off to work in that field. I went international. I was doing IT roles all around UK and Europe and America and Asia. And when I then went on to learn no, that's the wrong word. I had learnt Cisco's on the job, but my dad has, even though he's Jamaican, he has a very, I say he's African Jamaican, because he has a very education mindset. It's like, get your qualifications, make sure you get your qualifications. You could know it all you want, but get your qualifications. So even though I'd known Cisco's for years, I then went and got my qualifications, and that's why it was probably a lot easier for me than everybody else in the class, why I then went ahead and was then teaching a class it too. And yeah, that's how I got into IT. And it was when I done the Cisco's, and then I done the networking side, which is the general part. I then specialized in the wireless technology. And that was where I became like the first black again female to do Cisco's. And I was like, hold on a minute, I've heard this before. So that means, again, there's no more females or black females in this industry. So my mission then was to, after my next class that was full of males, ensure that we had women, black women, on the next class that I was teaching. And and women were in the industry because I was taught by an older white lady who became like my office mummy. Still talk to her now, still have relationships with her and her family. And her son became my office brother. And it was strangely a competition between me and my office brother in regards to business, why I started Smart. We had a project where we had to see lots of businesses, and how did we do the exact thing? So we set up 2 companies in the end anyway. And while I was still working with the computer college, and I was teaching Cisco's and doing a bit of project management, I had to see 30 companies. However, there was a typo and it said 300. Because I'm like a natural problem solver, what I noticed was when I saw these 300 companies, and I tapped into my network of previously working with organizations, and a lot of my family members are business owners, tapped into a lot of that and lots of referrals. There was a massive disparity with when I was seeing these companies and asking them their income, they're deciding what they need to do with tech, which most of them had absolutely no real tech anything when it comes to shop-based businesses, I should say, and store-based businesses, and certain corporates as well. Definitely courts and banks were completely rubbish. And black-owned companies broke my heart, where I just saw the minimal income, the maximum input, where they work there, they physically work there, they manage, they do everything, barely sometimes any staff. So it triggered me to initially start Trinity Collective, which back then the code word for black was urban. That's now changed. So I was like, supporting urban businesses on how they want to grow was my tagline. And when I had like a competition with my office brother, I was doing Smart Kids as well. And he was like, all right, we're going to take the brand Smart, and what do you want to apply it with? And I actually have this handwritten thing in a picture frame in my house, in my bedroom. I'm looking at it right now. With all the smarts, and I only put it in a picture frame the end of last year. Finally, it's been in my office pinned, like quite rudely pinned on a wall that had been there for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got like smart mum, smart kid, smart house, smart car, smart. And this is 15 years ago.
Wow.
And I'd listed, I can actually, if I move, is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We like visuals.
I'll actually read off some of the things that was actually, oh. So it's now in a frame. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with my kids on it too. And yeah, I've got smart family, smart comics, smart business, smart music, smart money. The money side really worked. Smart car, smart switching, smart website, smart clothes, smart music, smart 60 plus different things basically on that list that I initially wanted smart to be attached with. And it was a competition between me and my office brother, and it really worked. And smart now is all over the world. Not everything obviously smart, because you can't really brand a common word. However, or you can't really copyright a common word, but the basis of using my Cisco skills, being a female and being a first in certain industries, and being able to talk in layman's terms to people on how to improve their technology really worked. So yeah.
You've just, like, there's about 20 questions that I wanted to ask as you're talking, and I'm like, this is something I do in every interview. Like, I need to remember all of them, because I'm going to ask you one, you're going to answer it, and that's probably going to lead to another question, and then I need to remember the other one. So you kind of, it's a fantastic story, and I'm personally inspired by the journey that you've taken. So thank you so much for sharing that. There's just so many questions. So number one, you glossed over the fact that you was diagnosed with cancer at 19, but then you carried on doing all of this work. How were you doing that whilst, I assume, you was having treatment? How did you balance those two things?
Okay, so my father's a Rastafarian and my mum's Jamaican, both of them's Jamaican. And what happened when I had the cancer, I kind of didn't listen to what the hospital's full suggestions were. It was like, you're gonna have to have this treatment. It will limit your chances of having children, and it will, if you don't take this treatment, basically you'll be dead at 29. And I felt that was his reality and not his perception, and not my reality.
Yeah.
So I left that office planning my 30th birthday, and I was determined to get better and have children without any problems. So I my mom calls it stubborn, or determined, politer word, determined to make sure that I didn't have none of his perceptions. So I took, they were suggesting I take all this medication. I didn't. I instead took a operation to remove what they classed as the cells. It didn't work fully the first time, so they then tried to overwhelm me with all of these ideas of death, which again, I'm very determined and refused to listen to that part of it. And then I took a lot more alternative health approach, where I was mindful of what I was eating. I know people now know that you can eat yourself well. And so I had my operation, a second operation, and then went straight to Jamaica and sat in my mum's house eating the right foods, that is hard food and natural foods, and lots of, I'm not a massive meat eater anyway. So even though veganism is popular now, back then it's called being idle.
That is right, sir.
So I was being more idle than ever, and was tuning in a lot more with nature, taking walks in the grounds and being in the sun, and just being able to shift my mindset and focus, and honestly plan my 30th birthday. So that kind of shifted it for me, because dead at 29 means you can't plan a 30th birthday, innit? So it shifted that energy. And because it was, again, I hadn't told anybody else apart from my cousin who was with me at the time. It wasn't a focus. It was just focus on my mum was going to live there. We got making sure the house is all set up and it's nice, making sure her and my brother are comfortable, my dad and all the rest of the family. Didn't focus on it, just kind of because I didn't take their treatment, so I didn't look like a general cancer patient. So nobody could visually see. Yeah. So I've had a few more cancers, and the only cancer people could visually see was my brain cancer, and that was in my 30s, and that makes a huge difference. When people can see it, they all know you're sick. So otherwise I hid it.
Honestly, like, I'm feeling quite emotional as you're talking, because when I was, how old was I? 29, 28, 29? I can't remember the exact age. I was told I had precancerous cells, and the way that you approached it versus the way I approached it was completely, like, I was like, oh, right, I'm dying, I'm going to die, I'm going to be dead. And I was getting married. I think when they told me I had them, I think I was getting married maybe 5 or 6 months later, and I'm not going to get married, I'm going to be dead. And I was proper, like, on the ground, like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. I had the operation to have them removed, I think 2 months before I got married in the end, and I've been fine since. But I'm really inspired by the fact that that didn't even cross your mind as a thought. You didn't ever entertain it. And I always think people that are able to focus their mind in that way are just amazing. Where did that come from? And obviously you said that your dad's a wrestler, so I'm going to guess that that's partly to do with it. But you obviously have a really strong mental resolve. Is that something that you've always had? Is it something you've had to cultivate?
It's something definitely I've always had. I think it had to cultivate. My mother, when I was 9, was diagnosed with a condition where they thought she would die. And I can remember, basically, I was very religious as a child. So I worked at my school's church. Not like one of, I think like 2 of us at the school worked at the church, and I did Bible college as well, Bible studies as well. And so my faith was basically unbreakable. And I think my mum's words are like, I spoke life into her. And then while she found out she had this condition, she was pregnant with my brother, which at the time I was the only child for my mum. So I was just like, my baby brother is going to be fine with my mum. We're going to do this. And my mum was kind of maybe putting a good front for me, but she sure did. But yeah, she went for an operation, obviously had my brother, and I kind of was aware of my, need to help to support them as well. As I said, my parents got divorced, my parents were separated. Obviously she met my stepdad and family and stuff like that, but I was very independent from young. My mum always says I was independent from 9. So and maybe the Rasta, my dad has a case of, he knows that certain foods are toxins, so he doesn't eat meat, and my parents are separated, so my mum does. And he would look at the meat as poison, like, well, you're going to eat that piece of nasty, whatever it is, with how much different hormone juk in it, and had always warned me that this nastiness would make you sick. So that's where I kind of was like, oh, my daddy was right. Let me go eat better.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. My dad's not a Rasta, but he has very Rasta-centric views.
Yes.
Exactly. So when I went through the experience, he was just like, you're not going to die. We're not even entertaining that. So he had that thought, and I was just like, help. So I kind of relate to that the upbringing, I suppose. So you're saying also that your mum obviously moved to Jamaica, and you became kind of properly independent in your mid to late teens.
Yeah.
And my husband kind of had a similar experience in moving to the UK in his teens. And I always think it's amazing that teenagers that are kind of independent are able to still move forward and hit goals and progress in careers. And obviously you've been able to do the same. Again, where did that self-discipline come from? Because there's other people that 16, 17, 18 would have just been out partying and just living their best life, not thinking about working or temping or anything?
So I was 13 when my mum told me she's moving back to Jamaica as soon as she can. And I draw as well. So I designed my mum's house, and I was 14, and my mum actually lives in the house that I designed when I was 14.
Who are you? Like, who are you? This is the most amazing story I've ever heard.
Oh, thank you. But that's just factual. That's what happened. So, like, everybody knew I liked drawing. I loved doing like what's it called? Eye view. What's it called? Bird's eye view. Properties. Yeah. Always doing like the plans of houses. My mum innately was always decorating, so maybe that's where it comes from. Me and her actually just decorated last week my teenager's room. Still there. But I innately grew up with doing that and always loved drawing. All my family would buy me art stuff and stuff. And yeah, I just knew, like, at 15, while maybe people were buying like chewing gum and stuff, I was buying plates and cutlery and looking at wallpapers, what I want to have in my place. And so when I left home 16, 17, my house was already, I knew how I was going to decorate my home. I knew what kind of layout I wanted. I knew I ripped out cupboards and things like that, because we've done that DIY stuff. So even though my dad's an electrician, he's a carpenter as well. So like my nickname's Handy Mandy. So yeah, I've been told I need to share my DIY side. I was like, I already overwhelmed with just IT and stuff. So yeah.
No, I love that. It's amazing. Yeah. So you're going back to the IT bit then. You was in the IT kind of field. You was one of the only Black women, I suppose, that you were seeing around. How did that strengthen your and how did you navigate that? And did it have any sort of impact in terms of boosting you to be the best that you can be in business, I suppose?
So I now look back in hindsight and realize, because I had there's 8 first cousins, 7 of them are boys, and I'm the only girl.
Wow.
So I reached out to like external cousins, because they were females, to like, they lived in Gloucestershire and East London, and I lived in South London. I would travel to those areas because all my South London cousins are all boys. So being in that environment didn't seem unusual for me.
Yeah.
I wasn't noticing it like in a major way. I wasn't feeling, oh, I'm missing girly time or anything like that. So that's probably why when they said it with Microsoft, it just glazed over and I carried on. Yeah. And until the Cisco's time, I was like, oh, again? I'm realizing, obviously, that means there's no other Black females in the industry. So thankfully, I was able to then teach some Cisco women. And what's it called? Is it 7 years now? I think they're 7 years old. So there's a company called STEMETS. And it's run by a lovely lady called Anne-Marie Famadon. They're actually classed as the smartest family in the world. Her and her father and her brothers and sisters, they all passed their GCSEs really young. Like the last twins were 9 when they passed their maths and English GCSEs. So definitely look them up. I don't know why UK don't basically have them as household names all the time, but in other countries, like, they are, and they get recognised by the Queen a lot as 100 most influential families in the world. And she started a company called STEMETS that focuses on teaching girls STEM. So science, technology, engineering and maths. And my focus is on the engineering side in the last couple of years, because I realized that because I'm one of their team mentors, and it focuses on going around the world to make girls go into STEM. So that is another way that I do it, along with trying to raise the profile of females in STEM and especially engineering.
I love that, and I definitely will be looking up, because I would love to interview her as well. That sounds amazing. She's
amazing. She does a lot of interviews. She's definitely more. She does a lot of articles. I think, is it the Guardian or the Evening? She's on the. They come to her on the news often. I'll switch on my telly on a Saturday and see Anne-Marie on there. So yeah, she's a great person to interview.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that you're a mother.
Yes.
How did becoming a mother, or did becoming a mother, have an impact on how you did business? Obviously, I know with Smart Kid, that was a direct result of your children, but did it have an impact on how you were running your initial business and how you do business generally? Because I know you do many different things.
Yeah. So with the main company, with Smart World, what just didn't make sense to me was the school run and starting work.
Mm-hmm.
And starting work at 9, school runs at like 8:50, and work finishes at 5, and school runs at 3. Wasn't smart to me. Just wasn't the smart way to do things. So when I was focused on my business, I would work from 10 till 2.
Mm-hmm.
And you could talk to me and meet me between 10 and 2, because otherwise I'm dealing with my children.
Mm-hmm.
So if with computers, if when you put your kids to bed, my daughter used to go to bed around 7:30, I may be able to talk to you between 8 and 10 type thing in the evening. So my oldest daughter, for instance, doesn't know a world where I couldn't take her to school, come on her school plays, or go on her school trips, because then I would book myself out when she was at school. And when she needed to be homeschooled when she was 13, I was able to thankfully partner up with my business partner. We both were wanting to homeschool our children at the same time, and it really worked. We partnered up. I would do some days, I would do half a day, we would do trips. And at that moment of time, she went back to school when she was about 14 and a half, because it was for health reasons and stuff. It's always, for me, my children come first, my family comes first, business is after that. So that's how I've been able to work business. Maybe because I had like IT contracts. When I was employed as an engineer, it didn't make sense. Like, you wanted me to stay 7 till 7. Doesn't make sense. I've got a family. So once I had my daughter, that just wasn't making sense to me. When I was teaching, they knew, right, Marcia leaves at this time. So I'm like, bye everybody. Family come first, So I think at one point my daughter was in after school club only because lots of her friends were. So but then my youngest daughter is got a different life. She does do the school and after school club because she's more with her dad as well. So he has that world. So she still knows 2 worlds where mommy can drop anything and be with you. But it's my oldest daughter, like even at college, I was taking her to college in the car. So she was like, oh, yeah, not all my friends do that and stuff.
Well, it's interesting because I speak to women in business who have children who feel that they can't set those boundaries, who can't switch off to go and pick up their kids or to spend time with kids in the evening, and feel that if they announce that or do anything about that vocally, that people are going to not want to work with them, or they're going to lose work on the back of it. But I'm pretty much of your school of thought. I have a 4-year-old, and I drop her to school, I pick her up, the same thing, I go to all of her little plays and her little funny bits and bobs. And I had to homeschool her only for like 6 weeks last year. And obviously right now we're in the middle of this lockdown, so we're kind of doing the same thing now. And really she's priority, then I do whatever I need to do outside.
Exactly.
And I think more mums need to be more vocal about that. And dads actually. So during this lockdown, my husband, he is a contractor, and the contract that he's doing, it's like there's no awareness that he has a family outside of that. So they're scheduling meetings from 8:30 in the morning to 5:30 in the evening, and I'm just like, hello, there's a child running around here that wants to spend time with you. So I love that you were very clear on, I'm leaving, this is it, time is over.
Yeah.
So obviously you've had a very long and and successful career, what are some of the, and I'm going to ask you later about your 3 pieces of advice. So this is not necessarily advice, but what would you say is the greatest lesson that you've learned along the journey, the key thing that you wish that you had known maybe at the start of not even just the business journey, but your general career?
There's nothing about my career that I could say I would change.
Not even that you changed, but something, even a lesson you may have learned about yourself.
Okay, so I learnt when at the first year in business, I learnt my health. At first year in business, I then got brain cancer and had 9 months of chemo and was off for like 2 years. I would say make sure your health is first when it comes to business, especially because we have this opportunity to always be switched on, always send emails. It's very easy, always be posting, always be doing something. I think in business, you have to book in the diary when to switch off.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I have like messages or little things around my house. When we come into my house on our coat hook, is take time to relax. So switch off, not always be on. Like I hate being busy, literally hate it. Now when people say, oh, I'm so busy, I like to be productive.
Yes.
If I'm working, I'm switched off and I'm working. It's A to B, not C, D, E, F, G, and that one too. So I've set my tasks, I'll do them and switch off. So
during this, and I don't want to make it too COVID-19 centered, but we're in the middle of it. I feel like it's totally ignore it. How have you managed to navigate the lockdown, doing business, having family time, being productive? Has it been a challenge for you? Because I know for me personally, one of the challenging bits has been focus. I've found it quite difficult to maintain my focus when I'm working. So I've actually had quite a bit of downtime because I just turn off the laptop and do stuff with my daughter because I know that my brain is not functioning in the way that it normally does. How has it been for you?
This is literally my heaven. minus the deaths that are happening. However, I work from home. My main office is in my garden. I joke about taking my steps to work. So being at home working is normal. Only at the events am I actively having to go to things. Now these events are online on Zoom. It's like, what?
Yeah, it's true. It's so much less time to travel, right?
So, like, I'm doing this interview, for instance, because not only did I have cancers, I have a condition called EDS that I raise awareness for, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is spontaneous dislocations, and lupus, which is an autoimmune disease. So those have been my factors. I think that's why I was quite blasé about the cancers, to be honest, because they can fix. Those ones are meant to be lifelong and forever with you. So I'm currently having an interview while I'm lying on my massage mat. Literally my heaven. I'm I'm on my massage mat as we speak. So these are the things that are wonderful for me during lockdown. I live in an area where I have a fruit and veg shop, a little corner shop, fishmongers.
Fishmongers, that's the thing that no one seems to be able to find. Fish.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I can't find fish. It's stressing me out. But
and a meat shop on my literally 3 minutes walk from my house. So it hasn't. And further down the road is all the Jamaican food that I need to buy. So I was where I say I'm literally in heaven. This is lovely. The roads are clearer. When I go for a drive, it's nice.
No traffic.
So my teenager's learning how to drive. It's like clear roads. I keep on reminding her, this is not normally how the roads are. But I wake up and focus more on doing my yoga. I do yoga in the garden, on my trampoline. I've now created something I call bounce yoga because I'm on the trampoline doing it. So it's been lovely. I'm literally in heaven. And because I have those health conditions anyway, autoimmune disease means you cough, I get sick.
Yeah.
I was always mindful of that. I'm like doing the e-money and smart money. I really love touchless, cashless societies only because you can track where your money goes a bit better without having to keep receipts. Everything's all in one place for me.
Yeah.
So I've always used, as soon as I could, I would use my smartphone to pay for things. So this, not like before, shops had their, oh, you have to spend £5 nonsense. Now you have to take it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe because I'm an optimist and see the positive out of certain things. Like most families are home cooking now because I can't eat out. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good thing. Families are together. They're seeing how they can work from home. That's a good thing. Because if you're not in a domesticated violence home, that's a positive thing. However, for the people that are in lockdown in that situation, I want them to try and get as much help as possible. Or if you know someone in that situation, show that they can get some help as possible, because that's the only not good thing about that too. However, I'm in heaven. My mum's trapped in England, so we're cooking like jerk chicken and fresh rice and peas and all the foods that I'm used to, and steamed fish. And
I don't have fish.
Yeah, sorry. So it's like, what happened?
It's looking at the positive sides, right? And I think that's a testament again to your resilience and to the way you think, your mindset, because there's a lot of people just, oh, I don't want to be in my house anymore, I can't take this, oh my gosh, so offended. Whereas you're looking at the positives, and I think that's important. And it's particularly important for us to be able to get through this. So I would say sometimes I'm a bit more pessimistic, but during this period, I've had to be optimistic, because otherwise I'll go mad in here. So I've been like, oh, well, I can relax. I don't have to travel anywhere, because I do a lot of work from home, but I also go to see clients in other cities. So I'm on the motorway a fair bit. The mileage on my car is looking great right now. The petrol, I don't have to spend nothing on petrol. I put petrol in my car about 5 weeks ago, and it's still there, quite high. So yeah, it is about, I think, looking for the positives in this situation. Otherwise, yeah, you're gonna be in for a very depressed couple of weeks or months, or however long this is going to be. So I hear you on that. I think we've done a lot of personal stuff, but I just feel like it was unavoidable because you've got such an amazing story. Taking it back to business, then, 3 pieces of advice that you would give to somebody who's sitting at home and thinking, actually, I want to start a business, or they've started a business recently. What advice would you give to them?
Okay, the first thing I would say, anything is possible. Like, don't limit your mind in any way, shape or form. Literally anything in this day and age is possible, even in lockdown. And with the second piece of advice is to do it. Don't stop talking about it, do it. And then my third piece of advice is I used to say a lot more to the children, realized adults benefit from it as well. And a few years ago, I actually said it back to myself as well. So I would say, set your goal, double it. What does that look like? Then triple it. Realistically, triple it. Triple the doubled, not your first one. Triple the doubled. Then aim for that. And if you make it halfway there, it's more than you ever dreamed of.
I love that. That's amazing. I've never heard anybody say it like that before. Aim high. I've really loved this interview. Thank you so much for sharing. Honestly, you've made my weekend now. We'll be thinking about that all weekend. If people want to find out more about you, about your businesses, what platforms can they find you on?
So I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And all of them is Marcia Brock, but it's Rock with a B at the front. So yeah, Rock with a B, and yeah, that's where you can find me. It's I'm the same on all of them, Marcia Brock. Yeah.
And if people wanted to visit your business, do you have business sites, business
Yeah,
platforms?
the main one's Marcia Brock. You can find that either marciabrock.com or marciabrock.co.uk. Or it's easier to go through my social media to get to them, because there's quite a few companies, because I do trading. I can show you to do trading. I can do IT. Can tell you about the charity, Smart Kid and stuff are all under the Marcia Brock. So I kind of link in everything. Linktree's an amazing tool. So thank you. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you again so much for sharing. I've really enjoyed the interview. I've gone over time as usual, but I couldn't cut it off any sooner because, yeah, I loved everything that you said. So thank you. I'm wishing you every success with everything. And thank you, everybody, for listening, for watching. I'm sure that you've taken away a lot from this interview. So please write a comment, please like, please share, and let us know what you thought of this interview, because I personally have loved it. So I hope you have too. And again, as usual, make sure you click that subscribe or follow button so that you don't miss when I release a new interview. And I'll catch you next week, Sunday again at 8 p.m. for another She's the Boss. And if you are a woman in business and you want to be interviewed, please drop me an email to Daniela at she'sthebossintl.com. Thanks for watching.